One of the best games in recent history in the World Cup took place in the early hours of this morning. And unfortunately for the underdogs Cape Verde, they came out the losers. But they've stolen the hearts of many fans at this tournament. And so it's farewell to the underdog story that was absolutely incredible. Hello everybody and welcome back to Full House Sports. Here myself, Charlie. And reminder before the video starts to please like, comment and subscribe. Anything you guys do is greatly appreciated as I try and become a one-man sports news bandwagon. Yes, that's like Cabo Verde or Cape Verde took on Argentina. It was thought, certainly before the game, and I was definitely in this camp, that Argentina were going to stroll through this game, probably put a real landmark, a sort of message to the rest of the tournament down in terms of beating Cabo Verde. And they didn't, quite simply. Cape Verde scored certainly one of the goals of the tournament, Sidney Cabral. What a goal that is. I remember, I say I remember, it was only last night, but I was sat in bed and when it went in, you just shot straight up. It was incredible to see. The celebration was actually quite nice as well, running over to see his girlfriend. It was nice. It was wholesome, wasn't it? As for Argentina, I'll talk about them in a minute, but just on Cape Verde, what an incredible story it is. A nation with only 500,000, a set of volcanic islands off the coast of Africa, a former Portuguese colony who have really used the diaspora aspect of African football to their advantage. Now, we've seen a lot of countries do this recently, Morocco being a prime example, DR Congo another example, even nations like the Ivory Coast. In fact, most of the African nations at this tournament have somewhere or another got diaspora players who maybe weren't born in the country but have the second generation of that nation to be born outside of the country. They've been exposed to European football. Although in the case of Cabo Verde, not so much. Not many of these players are actually playing in Europe's top 5 leagues. I think one out of the squad is playing in one of Europe's top 5 leagues. The rest are playing in around. A lot of them based in Portugal because, of course, it is a former Portuguese colony. In the case of certainly the likes of Sidney Cabral, you had, of course, players like Kevin Pina, who played Krasnodar in Russia, and as well Pico Lopez, who... Do you know, with Pico Lopez, it's slightly frustrating, I think, the coverage of him. Because, yes, he was picked up through LinkedIn. He was a mortgage advisor, etc. He's also been a very, very good player in the League of Ireland for a lot of years for Shamrock Rovers. He's not a Sunday League player. You know, I do think some of the coverage around him has not been great in that aspect. I know you want to tell the story as a broadcaster, but also let's give the League of Ireland and give Pico Lopez credit where it's due. As for the game itself, like I say, incredible. You thought when Messi's goal has gone under the radar because that's outrageous in itself. The first touch is just brilliant, kills it, and then lifts it over the keeper. Their goal, though, was well worked, Cape Verde's, or this first one. They then conceded to Lisandro Martinez. I still wonder if Tagliafico's fouled the player there. That's my feeling. I thought he was offside. He's not offside, but I don't know. As he's jumped into it, he's brought the lad down. It's affected the play. But anyway, it's a great finish from Lisandro Martinez. And then that goal from Sidney Cabral, where it's not something off FIFA or FC 26, whatever you call it, just where you press down the bottom for finesse and just in it went. Unbelievable. To beat Emi Martinez from there, it had to be. Yes, eventually there was the goal from Romero. Well, there was no goal. It was a great header. I think Gary Neville said it afterwards. You know, incredible from him to really just charge, just puts his body into anything. That's why he's loved by the Argentinian fans. They had chance at the end. Bechamel, if he was just an inch taller, he'd have probably got there to that one. But in the end, Cabo Verde, despite giving themselves a huge amount of credit, go through. I think there's a couple of things to go out. I think there's a couple of things. Well, there's a lot of takeaways from it. I think, firstly, what a competition from them. The first game when they drew with Spain, everyone sort of said, oh yeah, they play really negative. They're going to sit in. They're ugly to play against. I don't think they got enough credit for that. I actually think Spain as well got a lot of stick for that. Maybe unfairly now when you look at it. Uruguay, of course, that game was fantastic. Yes, Muslera was at fault, I think, for both the goals, but they did well. And then Saudi Arabia, they just did what they needed to do to get themselves through. In terms of drawing that game, yes, they didn't win a game at the tournament, but do you know what? They defended very adequately. Vozinha, of course, has gone viral for his aspects, but there was many good players in that squad. Let's say Pico Lopez, Kevin Pina, Sidney Cabral, Giovanni Cabral as well, who's been at Sporting Lisbon before. You know, these are good players who are playing at a decent level. They've definitely stole the hearts. They're definitely the underdog story of this competition, 110%. And to push Argentina the way they did is outstanding. What this says about Argentina's chances, I don't really know, because, you know, this is side Cabo Verde that have drew with Uruguay and Spain and now pushed Argentina. Were they just a good side? Were they a very good team? Or are Argentina maybe showing the effects of a lack of pace, which I think is definitely the case, and a lack of width? I think there's definitely arguments to be made about that. And as the tournament progresses, we will see I'll be quite interested to see how things pan out with their route. Egypt in the next round, you would think they would get through, and then it's either Colombia or Switzerland. The way Colombia are playing, you'd probably have to favour them. It's a Copa America rematch in a very interesting game at that one. We'll have to see how it works, especially after 120 minutes. That is an older squad, Argentina's, out of the big nations. A lot of these players are the same from a few years ago. We saw players like Montiel coming on, Tagliafico's. That's still who they're relying on. What does that say about their chances? Who knows? As always, guys, please like, comment, and subscribe. And if you guys do, is greatly appreciated. As try to become a one-man sports news bandwagon. As always, have a great day.